see the problem valid parenthesis. We will solve using Python. The problem statement is given a string S containing just the characters, parenthesis open, parenthesis close, curly braces open, curly braces close, square braces open, square braces close. Determine if the input string is valid. Then that define an input string is valid if open brackets must be closed by the same type of brackets. Open brackets must be closed in the correct order. Every closed bracket has the corresponding open bracket of the same type. So now if you see the example, in this example, the S is given the open bracket followed by the closed bracket. As this is a valid pair, we are going to return true. In the second example, S is given open braces followed by corresponding closure braces, open braces corresponding closure braces, open braces corresponding closure braces. So here the output we have written is true. Now if you observe example 3, where essays consist of open braces and closed braces, but these are not valid pair. So we are going to return false as output. Example 4, open braces, open braces, closed braces. The closed braces is corresponding to open braces. Then we have a closed braces. This is corresponding to the open braces. So as it is a valid pair, we are going to return. Now here in a given S, let us assume the corner cases if we consider. If S is given a dummy, that means no braces are given. If the length of S is equal to 0, in that case, we are going to return false. The second corner case we can have is the S is given only one element, either it may be open or the closed bracket kind of thing. So here also we are going to return the false. So these are the corner case we can consider. So now we will see the example with respect to example 2 as well as example 4. The steps we are following is in the step 1, we will read elements of the given input S. Then we will check if it is open type braces. Then move to stack, that is appending for the stack. Suppose if it is closed type, then we will check the top of the stack is corresponding to the closed type of the input. So this we are having the open and this one is closed. When not these two are same, then go to step 1 else. So what is the else means? If the top of the stack is not corresponding to the closed type, not a valid pair, that is not a valid pair, then we are going to return false. Once this entire loop is done, after reading one element, we are going to execute these statements. Once the loop is done, if no elements are there, that means if we are reached end of the element, if none of the case is false, then go for return. So this is what the logic which we are going to obtain. Now we will see step by step flow how we are going to read the element. Either we have to place into the stack or we have to retrieve from the stack. So as for first step, we are going to read the element. So in the first iteration, this I'll take as the first iteration. In the first iteration, the element is equivalent to the first element, which is the open type, that is open braces. When it is open braces, we are going to be place that element into the stack. So move the element to top of the stack. Now, in the top of the stack, we are going to be place the first element, which is open braces. Next, in the second iteration, that means we are going to read the second element. So now the element is the open braces is done. Next, the second element we are taking is the closure braces. So whenever we are having the closure braces, we have to pop the element. So we are going to carry out the steps are here. We are going to pop the element from the stack. So when we pop the element from the stack, this will be retrieved and this will not exist in the stack. So once we have popped this, we are going to get the open traces. Now we will compare whether if the element is not equivalent to the valid open traces type, then we are going to return false. Now in this example, the element whichever we are retrieving, here it is the open type is this one, and the current element, what is the current element we are having? The closure braces. So here we are going to read the closure braces as these are valid pair. So this condition fails, then we go for next iteration. So when you go for next iteration, that is in the third iteration, we are going to read the next element, which is open braces. Again, as element is open braces type, we are going to move this one to the top of the stack. Now the stack is empty at this point. As we have popped, the elements of the stack will not exist. Now we are going to be place this open element into the stack. Next, we go for the fourth iteration. In the fourth iteration, the element is the closure type. Now we are going to be pop this element. When the element is popped, then we will check whether the top of the stack and the element, whether it is a valid pair or not. As these are valid pair, we go for next iteration. So in the next iteration, we are going to have again the open braces. So in the fifth iteration, the element is the open type, which is curly braces. As here we have popped, this stack is empty now. When we read the open braces type, so this we are going to be placed into the top of the stack. So this will be moved to the top of the stack. Next, we go for next iteration. In the next iteration, the element is the closed type. Then we are going to be pop the element from the stack. So the element whenever we are popped from this one, so this element is the open type, which is curly braces. As we are popped, the elements of the stack is empty. Then we are going to compare whether it is a valid pair. So current element is the closure type, which is curly braces. As it is valid pair, we go for next iteration. But here S is empty, and we will check whether the stack is empty or not. As your S, all the elements are right, none of the case is satisfied for returning the false, and the stack is empty. So in this case, we go for returning true. In any case, if the elements are left out in the stack, then we are going to return false. We'll take with one more example. The next example we'll take is, let us consider the input S is open braces, again open braces, closure braces, the closure braces. We are expecting the output is true. We will see here. So in the first iteration, as the S is consist of the length of the element of S is equivalent to 4, so we require 4 iterations. So here we will see in each and every iteration what is the steps we are going to carry out. So either we'll take what is the element in each iteration, what is the element, what is the action we are going to be perform. If you have any comparisons that we will see here, what is the next step. So in the first iteration, we are going to read the first element, which is open type. So as it is open braces, what is the action we are going to perform is move this one to top of the stack. Move to top of the stack. So now your stack is empty. Now we are going to be place the first element, which is the open type. So here we are going to be place the element into the stack. Next, here we are not performing any comparison. So we go for the next iteration. So we go for iteration 2. So in iteration 2, again we have the open braces type. As it is open braces type, we are going to move this element onto the top of the stack. Now the stack, the second element is the open braces, which is square type. No comparison is taking place. Now we go for iteration number 3. So in iteration number 3, the input we are going to read is the closed braces. Whenever you come across the closed braces, so we have to pop the top of the stack. When we pop the top of the stack, so this will be fetched. Let us consider this we will take as term top of the stack. I'll take as TS, where TS is equivalent to the open braces of this. So when we have popped this element, so this will not exist in the top of the stack. Now we are going to do the comparison. So what is the comparison we are going to check is whether the top of the stack is a valid pair with respect to this. So if it is a valid pair, whenever we'll come across the valid pair, so then go to next iteration. So next iteration is in the iteration 4. So in the iteration 4, we are going to read the fourth element. The fourth element is a closed braces. So whenever the closed braces is there, we are going to pop the top of the stack. When the element is popped from the top of the stack, so TS will become the open type. Now we are going to compare. So what is the comparison we are going to take? So now here, as the top of the stack is popped, we are not going to have any element in the stack. In the comparison, we will check whether the top of the stack, which is open type, is a valid pair with respect to the current element. As these are valid pair, so we have to check for any element are there. So then we have to go for checking condition, either elements are present in S. So as no elements are present in step, none of the value we return. So at the end, we go for return true. So when you are returning true, we will check the stack is empty or not. If stack is empty. Now we will see one more example. In the third example, let us consider my string is consist of open braces. The next one is the closed braces, which is not a valid pair. So here the length of S is equivalent to 2. So we are going to perform two iterations. The same table kind of thing we'll take here. Here we'll take the iteration. What is the current element of S? Then what is the operation we are going to be performed? What is the next step? So in the first iteration, read the element from the S. So before that, we have a stack which is empty. First, we'll create this. So when we read the first element, which is open type, so whenever we come across the open type of braces, so move this one to top of the stack. So when we place this element on the top of the stack, so the stack will consist of the first element. So now we go for checking any elements are left out in S. If elements are present in S, go for next iteration. So in the next iteration, that is in the iteration 2, the element in the S is equal to the closure type. So whenever we come across the closure type, the step we are going to perform is pop the element from the top of the stack. So when we remove the element from the top of the stack, this I am assigning to TS variable is equivalent to the open type. Then we go for comparison. So what is the comparison we are going to take? If the top of the stack is not a valid pair with respect to element, return true. So now if you observe this, the top of the stack is open type and the current element is closed type, and these are not a valid pair. As these are not valid pair, we are going to return false. When we are return false, we are not going to execute any more steps. So we are going to exit from this. One more example we will see. Let us consider the input S is consist of both are open type only. When you get a both of open type, so how the execution will be takes place, we will see here. Now, if you observe the S, the length of S is equivalent to 2. So we require two iterations. When we have two iterations, we will write in the table form iteration. What is the element of S? Then what is the operation we are going to perform? Then we will see any comparisons are there. So what is the next step? So in the first iteration, we are going to read the element. So before that, we will take a stack which is equivalent to empty. We will read the element from S. So as it is open braces, so we are going to perform the operation is the element will be moved onto the top of the stack. So this element will be placed onto the top of the stack. Here we are not having any comparisons. Then we will check still if elements are present. So go to next iteration. So in the next iteration, again you will read the second element. As the second element is also open braces kind of thing. So the element will be placed onto the top of the stack. Second element also will be placed onto the top of the stack. No comparison will be takes place. Now we will check if S. So now as the two elements are read, we don't have the elements in further S. So then we go for decision for output. So what is the output we have to take? Now, in this case, we are not written any statement like true or false. Now, we are going to check if your stack is empty. That is, if the length of the stack is equivalent to 0, then return true, else return false. Now, if you observe, the stack is not empty, so we are going to return false. So, in this case, the output is false. Now the program for this case is first we have to check the sanity condition, that is valid condition, whether the stack is having at least two elements or not. If the stack is empty or if the stack is consist of only one element, then we are going to return false. So for that we will check if the length of S is less than 2. So when length of S is less than 2 means, so either your S may be consist of only one element or the input S may be empty. In either of the case, we are going to return false. Suppose if we have the elements in S is greater than or equivalent to two elements, then we go for creating a stack. So first we'll take an empty stack. Then we are going for extracting one element from S. So we'll write a for loop for the element in S. First, we'll check whether it is a open braces or not. So for that, we'll write if the element is a member of. Now I'll write all the valid open braces, that is open parenthesis, open close brace, square braces, open curly braces. If the current element is any one of these open type, then we are going to append this element to the stack. So for that, we'll write the statement is stack dot append. So what we are appending here, the element we are going to append. Next, suppose if the element which we are having here, if it is not an open type, then we will write else if. In the else if, we will check first whether the stack is empty or not, because whenever I'll get a closed braces, first we have to pop the element from the stack. So for checking popping the element, before that we have to check whether the stack is non-empty or not. So for that you'll write else if stack, we will pop the element and we will check whether it is a valid pair or not. So how we can check for this? Here we will write one more if iteration. If the current element is the closed type of parenthesis and whatever the element which we have popped from the stack, if this one is equivalent to, if it is not equivalent to the closed type of corresponding to the open bracket kind of thing, then we go for return false. Elif, suppose if it is not open parenthesis, then we'll check whether the element is the closed type of square braces, and we will check whether the element which you have popped from the stack, if it is not equivalent to the corresponding open braces, then we are going to return false. The third valid pair we are going to check is elif, if the element is equivalent to open curly braces type and the stack dot pop is not equivalent to the open curly braces, then also we go for return false. So let us consider if it is closed type and none of this if statement is valid, then we are going to return the false. So that we will write in the else part, else return false. So when this one will be executed, this one will be executed if the first element, here I'll write, if the first element is the closed braces type, then we are going to return false. Suppose if all the valid pairs are checked and before returning true, we will check whether the stack is empty or not. So then we'll write if stack, that means if the elements are present in the stack, so we are going to return false. If the stack is empty, then we are going to return. So this is the program. So thank you. So in this session, we have discussed how to find whether the given string is consist of valid parentheses or not and the corresponding Python solution. Thank you.